Hey, what's going on everyone? Today we're going to be checking out the Fiido D11 electric bike. Now this thing's pretty cool because it's under 40 pounds, folds up nice and small, and it's going to be really easy to transport around. So this thing was pretty easy to assemble. If you guys want to see the assembly on the bike of me unboxing it, make sure you check out the live stream I did when I opened this thing up. The hardest part about the assembly, in my opinion, was putting on the rear fender, because there's one bolt that you have to take off the cover to where the controller is to put the bolt in, and that cover was a little bit difficult to get off because the screws that they used to put in underneath were both cross threaded, so a little bit hard to get out. But once I got them out and put them back in straight, it was a lot easier to get them back in. So that was the hardest part of the assembly. We're going to get into how this bike performs today. We're going to test it on a hill to see what kind of power this 250 watt motor has. It's a 36 volt bike, and we're going to see what kind of speed it can do, and just how the bike works, how the throttle works, how the different levels work. So if you guys are interested in seeing all that, make sure you guys stick around. And if you're interested in seeing more specs on their website or picking one of these up, I will leave a link down in the description. It will be an affiliate link, so if you guys do use that, I will make a small commission at no extra cost to you, and I'll also put a coupon code down there to save you guys a few bucks if they provide me with one. So without further ado guys, let's get into it and see what this bike can do. Thanks for watching everyone. All right guys, the first thing I want to mention is Fiido did send me this bike for testing and review, but that's not going to prevent us from putting it through a good test today and showing you guys what it can do. To turn this bike on, there's a button on the back of the seat post here. Now the seat post is the battery. You push that button to turn the bike on, and then you hold down the power button up here, and that turns on the display. Then you can turn on your headlight from here, and it has a cute little horn also. It's a pretty neat little horn. I always appreciate that for safety and on the bike trail. So let's get into the settings here. Now this thing does have 3 levels of assist according to the display. So let's first test out level 1. And another thing that's cool about this bike, which my Mac Wheel L&E did not have, was gears. This thing does have a 7-speed double thumb shifter. So that's kind of a little bit different than my other bikes, how you use your thumb to both shift up and down. Right now I'm in 7th gear. So we'll see what kind of cadence this thing has. So it looks like on pedal assist 1, it looks like it's going to be about 15 kilometers per hour and 9 miles per hour. So not bad for PAS1. One thing I want to mention is that the display is not adjustable to miles per hour. That's one negative of this bike. I reached out to them. They said currently you cannot adjust it to miles per hour, which is a shame for a bike being sold in the United States. However, they did say they were working on possibly changing that in their future updates to this bike. So that's nice that they're working on updating some of the features. But it looks like about 8 to 9 miles per hour10 pedal assist 1. Let's go up into pedal assist 2. And it's looking about 10 to 11 miles per hour. So a nice speed there for pedal assist 2 and pedal assist 3. This will be the top speed of the bike, and I'm barely putting any effort into these pedals guys. It's looking like 12 miles per hour on the GPS, and I'm 160 to 165 pounds guys. So something to keep in mind. So let's hit the throttle here and see if it picks up any faster, because this bike is supposed to do 15.5 miles per hour. So throttle only, without the pedals. Oh, she's picking up some speed now. 15, 14. So about 14 miles per hour, I would say. Let's see if it hits 15 again. I would say roughly 14 miles per hour for top speed on just throttle. Let's start pedaling. So it looks like your top speed is going to be with throttle. Another thing I want to mention, I was holding the throttle down, and it does engage a cruise control. Right now it's in cruise control. I'm not hitting the throttle or pedaling. So that's pretty neat that they do have cruise control. To disable that, you either hit the throttle again or hit the brakes, and it will disable your cruise control. Let's hit the throttle while pedaling and see if it increases. Yeah, it does. So to get max speed, you will have to be using the throttle. It does seem pretty nice and smooth though, so let's start from a dead stop here. The brakes feel good, by the way, guys. Let's start from a stop here, just pedaling in number 3 and see how it picks up. Very nice and gradual and pretty quick when you're in speed 3. Not too bad at all. Already at 12 miles per hour. So let's try throttle from a dead stop. Nice and gradual, not jerky. So that's pretty nice as well. And the shifter on this thing, you have a thumb shifter here for shifting down, and then to shift up, there's another thumb lever right behind that one. It's hard to see here, but you push that and that shifts you up gears. So that's pretty neat. The only thing about this shifter though is if you're in the throttle, you're not going to be able to shift. You have to let go of the throttle to shift because you're using your thumb for the throttle. Just nothing, not really a big deal, but just something to keep in mind. So let's take this bike over and test it out on some hills and see what kind of power it got. So one nice thing about this bike is it does have a fairly large battery. It's 11.6 amp hours, which is pretty big for this size bike. It is in the seat post. One downfall to that is that you cannot add a suspension seat post to this bike, but you could add a more cushiony seat. This seat actually isn't too bad. It seems pretty comfortable so far. I'll probably leave it on there, but you could always upgrade to a Cloud9 that has springs in it. That would help out with cushion for sure and probably be just fine. Another downfall is that even though the battery is easily removable, it wouldn't be very easy to carry another one because the battery is pretty long on this thing, so it's probably not going to fit in a backpack or anything without sticking out through the top. So we're getting ready to go up this first little hill here, guys, throttle only. And yeah, not bad for the 250 watt motor. It pulled me right up that. It did engage cruise control there, so I don't think there's a way you can actually deactivate that to not kick in, but I think you hold the throttle down for about 6 to 8 seconds and it engages the cruise control. So pretty neat feature there. Overall, so far this bike seems pretty good, but I'll give you guys my final opinions in the end. Let's go over here and try it out on a little bit of a steeper hill and see how it does with pedaling and these gears. That's one thing that shines on this bike a little bit, is being that it has 7 gears. Even though the motor is only a 250 watt motor, on this light bike, this bike only weighs about 38.5 pounds, I believe, and that's with the battery. So if you wanted something that was easy to pick up and move, you could always take the battery out, which is about 7 pounds with the seat, and then it puts the bike down to just over 30 pounds, which is pretty nice in my opinion for somebody that's older needing to pick the bike up and to put it in back of a vehicle and things like that. So we're gonna go ahead up this hill here, one of the hills that I always test most of my bikes on, and see if it'll pull me up no problem. The Macwheel LNE16 pulled me up there pretty good with just a 250 watt motor, so I'm expecting this to pull me up pretty good as well, especially being that I have the gears here to shift and give it more of my own power, which is really nice feature in my opinion. All right guys, so now I'm in gear 1, pedal assist 3. We're going to start down here. It's more gradual at the bottom and it does hit 12 degree up towards the top. 9 miles an hour. And I'm going to start pedaling here and see if it takes me to the top. Gear 1. I am putting in some pretty good effort, but it is pulling me up, helping out for sure with that motor. All right, no problem guys, right up pretty good. Now I'm wondering how this bike would be without the motor, just trying to pedal up that hill, and there really is no way to turn the motor off when the bike's on because there is no PAS 0. So the only way to do that would be to turn the bike completely off. But just to show you guys, let's start out mid-hill here with the motor, and then I'm going to try it again with the bike off and show you guys how much of a difference it makes. Even though this is only a 250 watt bike, and it does have a 13 amp controller in the bike, so that's right around just under 500 watts, so I'm not sure what the amperage is actually set at in there. All right, here we go, mid-hill, no problem, right up it. That's what helped from the motor. Now let's try it again with the bike off and see how much effort I got to put into it. Oh yeah, a lot harder. Let me see if I can turn it on while I'm pedaling. There we go. Big difference with that motor. Even though it's only 250 watt, like I said, guys, it's not going to be a speed demon at 14 miles an hour. It's not going to be super powerful and pull you up hills that are this steep without putting your own effort in, but it definitely helps you out a lot versus not having a motor at all. All right, guys, so this bike is rated for a 5 foot to a 6'5" rider. Now, I don't know about that with specs being 6'5", that seems kind of tall. Now, this is as tall as the seat actually goes from their maximum rating on the seat post. That's where it is set at max. I can't even get on it at this height. I mean, look how high it is, that's crazy. I know a lot of you are gonna comment and say that I have the seat post too low, that I'm not getting proper leg extension when I was doing that hill test. I agree, I did, but for me to show you the good view from this camera here, I have to keep the seat post down low, and it's just easier for me to video like that. So that's why I had the seat post down, but this is the max seat. So, I mean, if you were 6'5", I mean, maybe, but you're gonna be bent over pretty far trying to reach these handlebars. I mean, I can't even get on it at this height. I mean, that's way too high for me, but it does have the adjustability there. If you were 6'5" and tried to ride this bike, I don't know, you may be too heavy for it, and you probably will look pretty funny reaching over trying to reach these handlebars. So I'm gonna put it down here to the minimum height that they recommend. This is where I did start out at. I think it did work its way down a little bit when I was riding. It seems like this is a little bit hard to tighten up. I could probably tighten it up more and clamp it harder and it would stay where it's at. That's the minimum. I'm just about flat-footed almost, and I'm just under 5'8", so that's probably gonna be where I keep it. And this is where the seat height is probably about where it's the right height for me to get proper leg extension. I'm bent over a little bit, not too far. And that is one thing I wanna mention, is that these handlebars are not adjustable up and down. So you will be bent over the taller you are riding the bike. That's one reason why I like to keep the seat down too, because I don't like being bent over as much. But this is probably where I get the right leg extension. And like I said, just under 5'8". I'm touching on my tippy toes a little bit right here with the seat being this high. But I will probably ride on the minimum recommended settings, which are there. So I'm flat-footed, still get a pretty decent leg extension, and it's just more comfortable for me overall. Now, this seat does go down further than their recommended rating. You can see with the recommended rating, the bottom of the battery's about level with the bottom of the chainring in the front. It does go down a little further, which would be nice if you were folding the bike and leaving the battery in it. However, when it's down all the way, this does stick down a little bit further, and you risk hitting that if you were going a little bit off-road over stumps, over rocks and things like that. So that's something you want to watch out, that you don't damage the bottom of that battery. All right, guys, so let's go over the specs and details of this bike. All right, guys, so up here on the handlebars, you have your control pad here, button to turn it on, you hold that down, and then you have your button on the bottom to control your 3 different levels of power, or basically your speed. It does show you a battery level and an odometer, but one thing I noticed about the odometer is that it resets whenever you shut the bike off and turn it back on. So it does not keep track of the kilometers overall. If you shut the bike off, it does reset that. Over here, next to the display, you have a button to turn your headlight on and off. One thing nice about a separate button here is it does not dim the display when you turn the headlight on. Below that's the horn button. The hand grips are pretty hard rubber, but not too bad in my opinion. On the right hand side, you have your 7-speed double thumb shifter. Now this is pretty different than all my other bikes. You have the lever out front to shift down, and behind that you have another lever to shift up. So usually when you have a thumb shifter like this, you have a trigger up here. It's called a trigger shifter. This is a double thumb shifter, pretty neat, a little bit to get used to. And then you do have your throttle here, thumb throttle. And you do have a quick adjuster in the middle here for twisting your handlebars back and forth. For the brake levers on this bike, they're not branded, but they are pretty nice, and they actually have a nice rubber front on them, which gives you a really nice feel when you're pulling the brakes. And they are using 160 millimeter rotors in both the front and the back of the bike. That 7-speed thumb shifter leads down to the Shimano MFTZ 500 7-speed freewheel. It's a 14 to 28 freewheel. Coming up the KMC chain, we have a 52 tooth front sprocket and a set of aluminum pedals, which are pretty aggressive. You don't have to worry about slipping off these pedals. They are not foldable, but they are pretty aggressive there, so you don't want to bust your shins with these guys, but you will not be slipping off. It does have an aluminum chain guard on the outside. There is no chain guard on the inside to prevent that chain from coming off, but that's okay. The outside one will prevent you from getting dirty from the chain to keep your pants clean. We have a Shimano tourney derailleur here, so that's a little bit entry level, but shouldn't be no problems at all. And it does not have a derailleur guard, so if you do lay this bike on its side or something bumps this, it could get bent. That would have been nice to see a little derailleur guard there, but no big deal. You could pick one of those up for a few dollars aftermarket. Now your controller of this bike is a 36 volt 13 amp controller powered by the 11.6 amp hour 36 volt battery that is the seat post. So pretty neat setup here. You have your on-off button on the seat post here with a really bright back light, which is really nice for safety. You have to push the button to turn the bike on, which turns that back light on. So anytime the bike is powered on, that back light will be glowing bright red. So really nice safety feature there. Like I said, on assembly, the rear fender was the hardest to install because the bolt that goes up here, you have to take this cover off, and that was a little bit difficult to get off because of the 2 screws underneath here holding that on. But if you ever have to get in here to change your controller or anything, it's just 4 screws to take that cover off, and you can access the controller easily. Now the back fender on this bike is a little bit wobbly. It's just plastic. It would have been nice to see the fender come down a little bit further and have a mounting bracket on here to the frame for strength like the front one does. The front one's real nice and strong and tight. Coming down the front of the bike, the wiring is wrapped fairly decent in a few different areas, and the wiring is all integrated nicely into the frame on both sides of the bike. You don't have any exposed wiring underneath, so really good job on the wiring. The bike is pretty sleek looking, really nice looking quality on the build. Definitely no complaints about that. One thing I did notice is it does have an adjustable kickstand, but where the kickstand is mounted in the center, there really isn't nowhere else to mount the kickstand, but your pedals do hit the kickstand if you try to move the bike, which I accidentally already have done and scratched the kickstand up because the pedals hit. So if you try to push the bike backwards when the pedals or the kickstand is down, you will come into contact with that there and scrape that up. So like I said earlier, the stem is not adjustable, but it does fold down nicely. You have the latch on your frame here to fold the bike in half with this quick latch here for easy maneuverability and putting it into your vehicle. Now this is a 38.5 pound bike, which is nice that it's lightweight. If you take this battery out with the seat, that lightens it up about 7 pounds or so. So you're looking at just over 30 pounds for the bike to be able to pick it up and put it in the back of a vehicle and things like that. On the front of the bike, you have a Star Union Wuxing light, which is pretty bright in my opinion. Really nice light on the front. For the tires on this bike, it's sitting on a pair of 20 by 1.75 inch tires. And what's crazy about this is these are a 20-inch tire, but nowhere near the size of the 20-inch fat tires, which when I got the bike, I was like, there's no way those are 20-inch tires, but they actually are, guys. They're 20-inch by 1.75. Pretty neat little tires. No issues with those at all. So to fold this bike up, guys, you just fold that latch down, folds the handlebars down, pop this lever on the side, fold that over, and One thing I want to mention is if you do not pull the seat out, the bike is going to rest on the battery. I don't know if that's really good. I don't really like it resting on the battery. If you pull the battery out, it is going to rest on this chain ring. It would have been nice to see them add a little bracket here for the bike to rest on whenever it was folded up. But let's take the battery out. You just unplug it here. You can pull the battery out, and you guys can see this battery is pretty big. That would be hard to carry another one in a backpack, and then you would have to carry another seat too. So if you wanted a swappable battery, a bike with a swappable battery, this may not be the right option for you, but you should get pretty good range out of that 11.6 amp hour battery. And you can see here, guys, with the battery out, it folds down really, really compact. The most compact of all my bikes I have to date, and really nice and light. Like I said, the only thing is the front will sit on that chain ring. Unless you could lay it down on this side, I would say that would be the safest side to lay it down in back of a vehicle. You don't want to lay it down on this side because there is no derailleur guard, but no problems laying it down that way. Really nice and compact, really lightweight, super easy to maneuver around. That's one of the best features about this bike, in my opinion. And you can see here the wiring comes through the frame and it's wrapped like a spring. So just be cautious when you're unfolding and putting that together, but I like how they put that spring in there to protect the wires. Put it back together, you just clamp that, flip your handlebars up, make sure that's clamped, and put your seat in and you're ready to go. All right, so this is my 5'3" wife on the Fiido at the minimum recommended seat height. This is her first time riding the bike. All right, guys, so overall, my final opinion on the bike is that it's a pretty cool bike. I'm actually loving the weight of this bike, and with the larger battery in this small style bike is going to be pretty neat, and I'm going to be able to use it a lot for throwing it in the car, taking it camping, whipping around the campgrounds because it doesn't take up a lot of space, and pretty neat. Now, a few things that I would like to see them update in the future would be possibly an adjustable stem on the bike so that you can get the handlebars up higher when you're riding. I would like to see maybe a better support and a longer rear fender, but that might be just nitpicking there. And the last thing I would like to see is possibly a pedal assist 0. So if you wanted to pedal this like a regular bike without the motor, you don't have to turn it off. You could just bump it down into 0 and pedal it. Oh, and the kilometers per hour, hopefully they update that in the future. They said they were working on it to try to make it go into miles per hour, and the odometer would have been nice to be able to have a trip and a odometer reading stay instead of resetting when you turn the bike off. So if you guys want to pick one of these up, like I said, I'll leave an affiliate link down below in the description to this bike. Make sure you check that out. And if you like this video, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell so you get to see more videos. And don't forget to join me on Instagram so you can see previews and photos of upcoming videos. Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you guys around on the next one.